guys, and welcome to the Metal Lab podcast. So this is a bit of a slightly different podcast. This is the not quite so Metal Lab podcast this time. Not because we're not playing some heavy, awesome music, but because this isn't quite as heavy as some of the death metal stuff that you may be used to hearing from what we've been playing. So we thought we'd branch out a bit this time and listen to some other influences and other types of music that people are playing today. So
definitely, and I think it's because we don't just support metal as, you know, a complete genre. We do, you know, we have got other rock bands, punk bands and stuff that,
yes,
you know, alternative bands that, you know, we do support as part of the Metal Lab. You know, we might have the, you know, the name the Metal Lab, but, you know, in that alternative family,
yes, of course,
we are supporting a lot of, you know, rock bands as well. So
yeah, and so
decided to call this the Not So Metal podcast.
The Not So Metal podcast. I like it. So the first band that we're going to be playing is the Brook. So I'm guessing named after Kelly LeBrook, the 80s. LeBrook. Is that what it is? LeBrook. Yeah. Kelly LeBrook on that. So tell us a little bit about this band.
I met the lead singer Sean. I've known him for about 5 years. He was in a US punk band called the Good Knives.
Okay.
Sean lives quite local to us in a place called Crowland.
Right. Okay.
So yeah. So we had a little bit of a chance to listen to the Good Knives earlier on.
Yes. Yeah.
Now Sean obviously started this band a couple of years ago, and they're trying to bring back the 80s symphonic sort of rock sound to the fans.
And you definitely hear that in it.
There's a lot of people that are of an older age that are really liking the sound of it.
Yeah, what I find quite interesting is when I was growing up, my sisters being a bit older than me, they were listening to a lot of Duran Duran and Aha and that kind of
ballet.
Yeah, some of that 80s synth kind of music, and at the time I was thinking, what is this? And then obviously when I found metal, I realised, well, this is much better. But there definitely seems to be a generation of people that were influenced by a lot of those sounds that are now coming back again. So let's have a listen to the band. So what's the name of the song we're playing?
The track is called Hanging On.
Let's go.
Locked away, every day's a sacrifice. So when we're gonna break the ice, stop wasting my time. And I don't wanna feel ashamed, standing in the pouring rain, out and trying to find the key, 'cause no one else can set me free. It's you. You keep me hanging on. I surrender. I surrender. Here I am, nothing but a prisoner, living in dystopia, planning how to escape, surrounded but I feel alone, nothing on the telephone. Every night I drive through town, the sun always holds me down. It's you. You keep me hanging on. I surrender. I surrender. It's you. You keep me hanging on. And I'll never break this chance. It's you. You keep me hanging on. I surrender. I surrender. It's you.
was Brook with Hanging On. So yeah, you can definitely hear the synth and the 80s influence with that.
Yeah, definitely. They've got a UK tour coming up soon as well, which is
Oh,
quite
fantastic.
cool.
So make sure you check that out.
Yeah, check on their social media page. There's also a date in Peterborough as well in September.
Oh,
so,
right, okay. So
late
not
September.
far.
So yeah, so make sure you check that out.
Yeah, and if you're in Peterborough, come and go there. We should be around, so come and say hi.
Yeah.
Excellent. So obviously this that 80s sound coming back with that, obviously that's not necessarily the sound you associate with rocky bands and things, but there definitely seems to be a new type of rock. There seems to have been a bit of an evolution, especially from when we was younger. There used to be a lot of hair rock and the glam rock, and it used
White
to be
Snake and Europe.
yeah,
Bon Jovi, even when they started off, they had long hair and tight jeans, didn't they?
and it was all that, that kind of love rock and
Yes,
that.
mum rock, as you call
cock
it.
rock and mum rock,
Mum rock, yeah.
with those. So there's definitely been a big change in that, and obviously the next band that we're going to be listening to is Sabotage.
Yeah.
And they're a female-fronted band.
Heavy rock band from Colorado, yeah.
And so obviously there has been obviously other female-fronted rock bands, but do you think that this is going to be a new explosion into this kind of feel? So obviously there's been a big metal female-fronted scene, and that kind of the take on of showing the boys how it can be done. Do you think there's going to be a return of a similar sort of turn?
I do. I believe now people have realised that the female fronted metal scene is getting absolutely huge, and the girls are killing it, aren't they?
Absolutely.
You got Ben and Prison, Ginger, Arch Enemy, 3 of the bands that are just literally killing it at the moment. You wouldn't be able to tell that that they're female fronted most of the time, because the vocals are amazing.
Yeah, it's all about the music, and as
I think
it should be.
now this might inspire female rock artists to actually have that more heavier alternative sound to their music. Maybe if they don't want to sing the high gutturals, but they can sing sort of the more alternative heavier rock sort of sound, and I think a lot of people sort of really enjoy that. I do. I love hearing a growlier sort of woman singing,
Right, okay, that gravelly kind of
the
sound
gravelly
coming
voice.
through.
It's really nice. I mean, somebody like Macy Gray, I could always imagine her in a rock band, because she's got such a really gravelly
I could
voice.
hear that. Yes,
You know what I mean? I loved her vocals, and I just thought she would be so cool playing like in a band with someone like Lenny Kravitz.
Oh, okay,
Do you know what
I could hear that. That sort
yeah.
of blend.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, that's cool. So obviously there's been other rock bands that have broken through. So do you think that it's not necessarily, like I said, with the female front, but do you think there seems to be a new growth in rock in the underground as well?
Yeah, and I just think a lot of the new younger fans, they're finding the old stuff.
Yeah.
And sort of looking for new stuff that sounds similar, and they're sort of
Okay.
they're putting it together, and stuff like Sabotage coming out, and they're thinking, hang on a minute, that's quite cool. It's not as heavy as what I do like, but it's still quite cool, and they don't always associate it as rock like we did when we were younger. Rock was sort of, that's rock and that's metal.
Yes,
but,
there's more clearer definitions at that point. Yeah,
but a lot of the bands are rock, and they class themselves as alternative rock or hard rock or heavy rock,
but rather than that metal line of Oh, fantastic. So let's have a listen to Sabotage. So which track are we listening to?
This is a track called Love or Lust.
Let's go.
You stopped me in my tracks with an angel smile. Now I see the devil there deep in your eyes. It makes my temperature start to rise. This is how it begins. Knowing how this night will end. And all the words will say, is this lust or is this love? Make my body burn with your touch. Take my breath, my soul is on fire. You make me weak with tears. along my spine. Fingers intertwine as your body enters mine. Skin against skin, when I feel the fire begin. Pain and pleasure fill me, exploding deeper than. Is this lust or is this love? Make my body burn with your touch. Take my breath, my soul is on fire. You make me weak with desire. Is this lust or love? Lust on me. Is this lust or love? I gotta know. Is this lust or love? Oh, is this lust or is this love? Make my body burn with your touch. Take my breath, my soul is on fire. You make me weak with desire. Is this lust or is this love? Make my body burn with your touch. Take my breath, my soul is on fire. You make me weak with desire.
Okay, so that was Sabotage with Love or Lust. So where are they based, Tom?
Colorado, so they're actually promoted by a big follower of the Metal Lab, Ground Zero Promotions.
Shout out to Ground Zero Promotions.
Sean and all his team at Ground Zero. Thank you
been a
for
great help.
introducing me to Sabotage. Amazing band.
Excellent. So we're going to be moving on to our next track now. Obviously, America seems to be a bit of the home of rock, really.
Of course.
Obviously, metal was born in the UK. I'd say I think we can fairly claim that title.
Yeah.
But rock definitely seems to be much more of an American kind of beginnings.
An institution, isn't it, really?
It does seem to be
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and I don't know whether it seems to be that college radio kind of influence from that. So do you think that there's a big difference today from UK rock and American rock, or even other European rock or rock from
I just
around the
think
world?
it's to do with the coverage and the exposure that the radio stations give the music.
Right,
So
okay.
I listen to a lot of digital radio stations
Yep.
through apps and stuff, and I noticed that a lot of the US stations that you listen to will play rock all day, every day,
Right.
24 hours a day, and this is like stuff like, you know, your underground rock, plus then you've got, you know, Alice Cooper, you know, other bands like that. It's all day, but there's not many UK stations that
That do
predominantly
that.
do this.
Right.
You know, this is why I think in America you got a massive rock scene, because a lot of them are very, you know, head stomping sort of, but
Yeah.
you know, foot flowing, bang bang bang
Yeah.
tracks. You know, they're
Yeah.
very sort of, you know, once you got them in your head, you can't get them out, which is very different to metal. Sometimes metal, it's just more of an escapism, isn't it?
Yeah, I
know?
think it's a different kind of emotion that's driving
Yeah.
that music with that, definitely. But no, but do you think that's also because America's so much larger in terms of potential audience out there, that a radio station can play rock without the worry of not having a big enough audience to listen to it?
I'm unsure on that question, because it's something that I've never ever it's something I've never been able to answer, but it's something I've always wondered as well, because
Yeah.
I know that in the UK, people that I've spoke to, you know, when I'm going to gigs, a lot of people love rock, you know.
Yeah.
I've been to Slipknot gigs and Mamma God gigs, and, you know, Trivium and everything, and you know, I've spoke to people and they've seen, I've seen Blackstone Cherry and I love Blackstone Cherry, and they're really like a soft rock sort of jazzy rock sort of band, you know, and they're like, yeah, we love these, but you know, we can't really, we only get to see them when they come to the UK, do you know, this is the thing, and the only way that they'll actually hear them is through Spotify or anything like that.
Okay, so rather than dedicated radio stations, I suppose it's that chicken and the egg kind of thing, isn't it? It's whether someone's willing to invest.
And I don't think, like with me and metal, I mean, you know I'm probably known as the heavy metal treasure hunt of the Metal Lab, and I find everything, but for people I think it's a lot harder to find new up and coming rock bands because the exposure isn't here in the UK.
Yeah.
So like if you're listening to, I don't know, Texas FM or whatever in metal, in you know in the US, and they're playing 24-hour rock, but they play like a new band that you've never heard.
Yeah.
You're going to think, cool, I'm going to search for them. But in the UK, you're probably only going to hear 4 or 5 rock tracks maybe in a week.
And if you do, they're going to be established artists.
Aren't regurgitated tracks either.
Yeah.
What I find in the UK is you'll listen to something maybe like Planet Rock or something like that, or Absolute Radio, but they're playing the same song probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
Like Van Halen Jump and stuff like that, and that's all regurgitated.
Golden oldies
stuff
rather
that,
than new.
Than actual stuff that you know you might have on a B-side that you think, oh my god, I haven't never heard that, you know. And a lot of these American stations are playing stuff like that. They're not scared to play, you know, a lot of the old White Snake stuff and the Europe stuff, you know, and stuff from the Scorpions and all stuff like that you wouldn't hear on normal UK radio stations.
Right, okay, so so not just the hits, but just stuff that other people enjoy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I believe that people do enjoy the less played tracks, because I do. I buy an album and then, you know, people might say, oh, you know, you've heard, oh, this is such a great single, it's a single that's been released on the album, but then I hear the album and think, actually, I like track 6, I like track 7, but they've never been released as a single, but I love them because to me, you know, they just sound...
It's something a bit different.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a listen to an American rock band that's doing pretty well at the moment. Excuse me. So someone who we've actually interviewed and who's really dedicated a lot of their art into this passion of theirs, and
you supported the Metal Lab a lot as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is Myco Psycho. So where's Myco Psycho based, and can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, Michael King is the lead singer and guitarist from Long Island and New York. He writes and performs all of his own stuff.
Yep.
He doesn't believe in being like tribute or doing cover songs. He's never really sort of done anything like that before. He's mostly influenced when you hear the track, sort of like Black Sabbath and Rush. So if you hear this track, you'll see a lot of influences from them sort of kind of bands. So the track that we're going to be playing it's a track about addiction. You know, Michael, when I interviewed him, he said it's about a boy that he grew up with that he knew. His dad indulged him so much that the only thing that was in the house was a drum kit.
Right,
and that was it. You know, he didn't really grow up with much more.
Yeah.
And it was about, this song's about addiction, and that's why the track they were playing is called Satan's Slave.
Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
So that was Myco Psycho with Satan's Slave. So it was quite interesting what you're saying earlier, just in the sense of sometimes you prefer to listen to track 6 rather than sort of the main songs.
Yeah.
So do you think that's something that interests you in with the underground, and that's part of what drives you in that, finding new songs or unusual songs or songs that you wouldn't normally hear?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, if we could have an underground metal radio station that we could just like, you know, let everyone listen to, I think it would just be amazing, wouldn't it? You know, because, you know, we follow bands, and you know, we've seen bands that we've had in Battle of the Bands and stuff, and you know, they have like 20 subscribers, and that's what we want, isn't it? We want them to, we want people to listen to them, because half of the songs are amazing anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
And it is such a struggle at the moment to get people to actually listen to your music. And I think one of the big differences from when we was growing up was you'd go into a shop, you'd see a cool CD cover, you wouldn't know who the band was, but you'd get it. Or you'd go to Kerrang or Terrorize or Metal Hammer, and they'd be talking about some band, and go do that. But you'd listen to every song on the album, and you would go through them. And you're right, there's always the singles and the things that may draw you to it in the first place, but then 9 times out of 10 your favourite song would be not a single, or would be a B-side, or that kind of thing.
I mean, I think the positive thing this year for me is seeing the New Blood stage, and some of the bands that we've helped promote over the last 18 months, like Ashen Crown, Tortured Demon, Elimination, they've all got a Bloodstock, and they've all had amazing performances, you know. And I'm not saying that that's part of the Metal Lab or everything, but it's so humbling to see that we've been on part of the journey with the bands, and now they're actually in a crowd of so many hundreds of thousands of people, and exposure's there, and you know, they're pushing away from maybe that little underground tag
and starting to
and
become
becoming more of a well-known band, and that's such a cool thing for us.
But that's exactly what we're trying to do here at the Metal Lab. It's trying to promote stuff, and obviously you mentioned about with the Battle of the Bands, and so maybe now's a good time to sort of mention, if you are in a band and you are interested in taking part, it's a friendly competition, mainly just to promote the bands, where we get 2 bands, we put them against each other, put out a vote on the Metal Lab page on Facebook. We ask everyone to come and vote and listen to the tracks and vote on their favourite track, basically. Whoever gets the most votes gets a radio interview with Franz on Franz the Planet, Berg Studios, and it's just a fantastic opportunity for unsigned bands and underground bands to get a chance to actually have a radio interview, to get some airplay on a radio station that's got worldwide sort of listeners, and to just get your music out there, basically. So come join the Metal Lab, submit your bands, drop a message, and get involved, and you could be getting heard all around the world, which is...
It's just nice to see that the underground scene is getting a little bit more exposure. I mean, the New Blood stage is something that I love, because now Bloodstock have realised that they must have realised that the quality of underground bands out there is so amazing, you know, and they've given them that stage to actually say, come on guys, you know, perform. And, you know,
here's your opportunity. So
it'd be awesome if we could do what the Metal to the Masses. I mean, Metal to the Masses is obviously regional, and everyone wins it, and whoever wins gets a chance to go to Bloodstock. But you know, hopefully in the end game that the Metal Lab could be maybe one day, hopefully something like that. You know, that would be amazing. Yeah,
I'd love to be able to be in a position where we could take some of these bands that we find and take them from
obscurity
onto a main stage, a place for people to come and hear what everyone's got to offer. So as well as obviously the Battle of the Bands, we also have the Metal Lab directory. So again, if you're a band, come and put your details on the Metal Lab. So again, if you're not in a band and you just want to find some new fantastic bands, have a look through there. Just imagine it like going to a record shop like we used to, flicking through the CDs, going, I like the cover of that, you may not have heard them before, and giving them a go.
And I also think as well, it's good as part of the directory to not only just what you said, but obviously if you're a UK touring band and you're looking for support, you can also go on there and actually say, quality, there's a band, they live maybe 50 miles away from us, I like what they sound like. They sound very similar to us. We can, message them, and hopefully, they might come on and there might be a support band for them. And that's why I sort of created that as well, because it's more like the bands can keep in touch with each other, they can message each other, and they can actually find, someone that's very similar to them, and that's going to work sometimes as well on gigs.
Well, yeah, if there's a venue near you but you need support, have a look on there. If you're a promoter and you're looking for bands, it's a perfect place to look for bands that are ready to play, to tour, who can perform. You'll be able to go on there, listen to how good they are, and hopefully be blown away enough to want to get them all come and play, and just keep on putting on shows. So carrying on with our theme of not quite so metal, the next band, MX the American.
Yeah, they were formed in 1982 in Atlanta.
So a little while ago then.
Yeah,
so when we were still very young.
Exactly. So they would have been around the same sort of time as your Bon Jovis and bands like that, wouldn't they? In the 80s.
Yeah, well, I said, even with Maiden and around that period and things.
So these guys know how to rock, really, didn't they?
Yeah.
At first, they were called just MX,
right.
And then they reformed in 2018.
Okay, so quite recently.
And then they changed the name to MX the American.
Okay.
So they're really different sort of sounding. You would heard a little bit earlier, and you were sort of saying very sort of some sort of typo negative elements in there as well with the vocals. Which is quite interesting.
There seems to be a little not over proggy, but in the sense of they weren't constraining themselves to just basic one tune through. It's an interesting listen in there, and it's just one of those things. So like saying, they're originally formed in 82, and so there's all of those old school elements, but they definitely have come up with something new in what they're doing.
It's quite weird because the influences from 82, you can sort of hear a lot of them in there, but you can also hear new influences as well.
Absolutely,
which is really sort of very unusual for bands, because a lot of bands sort of they drop the old influences and bring the new stuff in, don't they? But,
or go completely back to the old school.
Exactly. But this has sort of that sort of variance of both, which is quite interesting. That's why the sound's really sort of quite different. I mean, Ray Terrell, who's the vocalist, he sent me a couple of his CDs for the new album, which is absolutely amazing. So obviously we'll try and feature that on a Metal Lab Recommends or something, so that'd be brilliant. The new album has just been released. It's called Appalachia Voodoo Factory, so make sure
nice name.
You check that out. And the track that we're going to play is a track called Ghost.
Let's go.
Trying to get nearer, meeting so many people dearer. There's the one that I lost in love, truly the one I never found. Boundary stretching on the hybrid, 6 feet tall above the ground. I see you standing there, you're not alone. I wonder when you're going to bring me home. Think of you every minute of every day, all through the night, especially when I'm alone. I miss you so much. I see the spirit, this ain't normal. I just tested paranormal. I long for you. So cold and I'm just thinking you're blowing my mind.
and the thunder rolls. I miss you so
See the
much.
spirit, this ain't normal. I just tested paranormal.
I long for you.
Energy so close and I'm just thinking you're a
You make my mind. You keep my mind spinning round and
so sour, loving, living, innocent. It's all
I feel your energy. I see your
Cause
colors.
every time I hear it, I keep running from the spirit.
The lightning strikes and the thunder
See the
rolls.
spirit, this ain't normal. I just tested paranormal.
I feel your energy. I see
Feel
your
your
ghost.
energy so close and I'm just thinking you're a ghost.
So that was MX the American with Ghost. So obviously we've listened to a few American rock acts, and we was
Yeah.
talking about obviously that there seems to be a bigger scene over in America. So coming back over to these shores, the last track that we're going to be playing on today's show is from the Night Thieves.
Yeah.
So again, this is another female-fronted rock band. So can you tell me a little bit about them and where you first heard them?
They're London based. I actually just sort of heard them on a clip that was on Facebook, and I heard one of their songs called Battle Cry, and I was like, okay. So I messaged the band and they got back to me, and I said, you know, I really love the tracks, can you send me some more of your stuff? And they're like, yep. And I was like, cool, you know. So they're releasing their new album Spiral on the 19th September, so make sure you check that out. I just love this. I mean, the difference with the UK rock now, as you obviously can listen with obviously Le Brock, and then obviously with the Night Thieves, there's always that difference, isn't there? I think the UK bands seem to sound completely, I think, more fresh and modern. Does that make sense? I think in the US they're still living in the 90s.
There still seems to be, but again, does that come back to the idea of them being exposed to more rock?
Yeah,
That
it could be.
it's for them, that seems to be more of the standard on which they take the influences, whereas over here in the UK, because it's not so thrust upon them, there's going to be people that pick and choose some of the metal that their parents may have, or the rock that the parents or older siblings might have been into that.
And I think you can look as well. I mean, you know, I go back to, like, you know, we're old, really old gits now. You know, we're you know, we're 90s kids, aren't we? Really. So, in hopefully this band has sort of listened to bands like Skunk and Nancy and stuff like that as well. You know, and they've looked at how successful they were as a trio.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were a trio as well. And they've got influences a bit like sort of Paramore as well, haven't they? You know, if you listen to
so
early
there seems to
Paramore,
be some of that.
There's very
That rock-esque kind of breakthrough with that.
You know, and that's going to drive a whole different fan base to these guys as well. You know, people that are also like, you know, fans of Paramore and, you know, other similar bands are going to like these guys.
Yeah,
you know?
I think so. So do you think, again, going back to what I was saying about newer rock bands coming through. So do you think that it's then going to be the female-fronted rock bands that push this?
Yeah.
With that?
I do in the UK. I don't think in the US.
Okay.
I think in the US it's still going to be predominantly heavier rock by bands. You know,
Right,
like
okay.
we featured a band called Cage and Elliot. I don't know if you remember Cage and
Yes,
Elliot.
yeah.
They're sort of quite heavily rock
Yeah.
influence, aren't they? And I think what I'm hearing a lot in the UK. I mean, we had a band that we interviewed a while back, Blame the Sacred. Now they are obviously predominantly from Doncaster, but they have that American rock sound, and
There's that influence, isn't there?
They
from
released
that?
a track called Hollow Ground, and
Right.
that track just resonated to me. It was one of them tracks where I just thought, you know what, if this was around in the 90s, this very Creed-esque sort of song
would have been totally you.
this would
with
have
that.
been an anthem as well. And
Right.
I still believe that you have to I think to hit the rock market in America, you have to sound very similar to them. I don't think like a band like Night Thieves could go to America and maybe be huge, because I don't think the Americans are used to this kind of sound.
Right, okay.
But with Blame the Sacred, because they sound very 90s alternative rock,
There was already that American twang sort of
yeah,
inside.
I think that
Right,
on a radio airplay,
Yeah.
that would fit in perfectly. Someone would be driving in the car, listen to Hollow
So
Ground.
is that because it doesn't sound too dissimilar to the American
Yeah,
stuff in
yeah.
that sense? So do you think that, given obviously some of the bands we've listened to, especially with rock, with that 80s influence, so do you think that in the UK there seems to be not just the rock influence but also the 80s as a whole influencing some of that sound now? Then?
I do. I think it's going to come back in a big way. I don't want it to, because I thought it was...
No more
I
leg
thought-
warmers.
Yeah, you know, and little fruit pastel socks and stuff, yeah. But there are people... The thing is, people have got older, haven't they? You know,
I certainly have,
over
yes.
the last 18 months, a lot more people have been at home. They've obviously dug out the CD and record collections, I'd imagine, at home.
Right,
And
okay.
I reckon a lot of that's to do with it as well, isn't it? You know, people have, you know, been in the loft. Oh my God, I found my
Right, okay.
7-inch vinyl.
Oh, so some of that
You know.
reminiscence is now coming back to
and
them.
I think that's
Okay.
you know, a big thing. You know, people have been locked away, haven't they?
Yes,
And the only thing
yeah.
that has helped a lot of people is music.
Yeah, and that's because it's just a fantastic thing
Exactly.
for helping people.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a listen to Night Thieves. So what's the name of the track we're playing?
Well, this is their recent single that we've been sent. So this is
Yeah.
called Off the Wire, and as I said, it's from their new EP Spiral. So that's released on the 19th September. So make sure you check that out.
Excellent. So, Night Thieves with Off the Wire. Let's go.
Can't tell which one is the right way to go. Oh, and they're judging hard, no room for an error for this real. the right way to go. Oh, and they're judging hard. No room for an error for this weakness. This headache rings and echoes across the sides inside my mind, waking the demons of fear. So I take it off, break the wire. Yeah, break it off before I slide. So I take it off off the wire before I don't know why.
So that was Night Thieves with Off the Wire.
Love it.
So obviously we've been talking about rock today,
Yeah.
and I think part of that is because we want to make sure that although we're called the Metal Lab, it's not just metal. Like you said, it's for those
Yeah,
kinds
it's-
of alternative sounds
Of
as well.
course, you know, I mean, I've been to gigs, loads of metal gigs, where I've met people that are into rock music, aren't
Yeah.
they? You know, and it is like a big family. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
rock music's just like metal's little brother, isn't it? Really?
Well, more
You
the
know.
other way around. I think there might have been.
Yeah.
I think there's more rock from the rhythm and blues. Mind you, this might be an argument that we'll be
Yeah,
having.
exactly. You know, it's the two-way thing, isn't
What
it?
is rock and what is
Yeah.
metal? I suppose
Yeah.
because earlier when we was listening to some of the tracks, it was like, well, that sounds a bit more metal to me. You're like, no, that's more rock. And I don't know whether that's because of your level of metal is
Yes.
a lot more
Yes.
metal maybe
Yes.
than some of my perceptions of some of that coming
Yeah.
through.
But I think it's just important that, you know, we realise that without one there couldn't be another. You know what I mean?
I think that's true, and I think there's obviously those shades of grey that go through from heavy rock into more soft metal, and where does
Definitely.
they go? So just want to make sure that everyone appreciates that the Metal Lab is not just about metal. So whatever music you're into, by all means have a look. Obviously, we're not here to promoting pop or anything
No,
like
but if
that.
you're a rock artist or even a heavy punk artist, we're happy
Yeah,
to.
definitely.
If especially if you're an underground artist or
Yeah.
band, you know, this is what we want to specialise in. But, you know, giving you more exposure,
Yeah.
you know, reach, and, you know, your name out there, and just getting people to actually hear your stuff. That's what's important to me.
Yeah.
I love to hear people send me submissions, and, you know, someone will say, "Oh, we're this band from this city," and I've never even heard of them, and
Yeah,
I
or
listen
the
to them.
city, yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, that's blown me away.
Yeah.
You know, and then I go onto their Spotify, and they may only have like 10 monthly listens a month, but I'm the 11th,
Yes.
and that's important to me, because then next month when I go on and I see there's another 3 people, that is so cool to me, because I think,
Yeah.
you know what, there's another 3 people, and if we help that as part of that exposure,
Yep.
that's us, you know, helping that band
Yeah,
become bigger.
absolutely, which is what it's all about. So if you are in a band and you're interested in becoming part of the Metal Lab, or you're a fan of metal, come join the Metal Lab on our Facebook group. Again, if you're interested in an interview,
Yeah.
get in contact, and we're, again, whether you've got 1 fan or 1,000 fans, as long as the music is good and what you're trying to do is true to you, then we want to know about it, and we want to help you expose that music to more and more people. We truly do believe in the music and in trying to promote
Definitely.
this and trying to get it out there, and we know that it's very difficult to get your music heard these days, where everybody's just shouting. I think there needs to be a place where people can come and listen, and the Metal Lab for us is that place where people can come and listen and find out about great new bands, basically.
Yeah, and just be a part of the Lab Rat family. Everyone's becoming a Lab Rat. It's going to be the new thing of the
I think
2021.
Let's hope that
If
the
you're
next
not-
pandemic is the Metal Lab pandemic.
If you're not a Lab Rat, you're nothing. You know, that's you know, just you know, be a Lab Rat or don't be anything. You know.
Yeah, I think so. So make sure you come over to us, join, check out the Facebook group. Make sure you check us on Berg Studio with Franz the Planet on a Wednesday. We're on there. Check out
We are.
Berg Studio again with Franz's show on the Mondays for our Battle of the Bands winners. And again, if you want to be considered for Battle of the Bands, come join over, send us a message. So I think that's it for this episode.
Yeah, I loved it.
So for all your news, reviews and interviews, join us at the Metal Lab.
The home of underground metal.